Ladies and gentlemen, Veronica Taylor.
Oh, did you? Thank you so much. Awesome. Yeah, so hi, I'm Veronica Taylor. Thank you for coming. If you didn't know that you're coming to my panel, surprise! Otherwise, this is a question and answer. It's all about you. So you guys get to ask your questions, and hi, you found it, good. And then I hope that I will have some answers for you. That's pretty much it. And you will pop around and...
I will, so put those hands up. Who's got a question? I saw you back there first.
Excellent. Nice weather out today. Not so hot yet. We didn't get rain like they thought, which is good. Fairly true.
Hi, Veronica.
Hi, how are you?
I'm Ryan.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. My question is that before you started your voice acting career, were you familiar with the anime scene of all the shows that were around, and did you have any interest of actually wanting to be involved with voicing anime or American cartoons before you even started your career?
I've watched cartoons since I was little, and so yeah, I've always wanted to work on cartoons. I'm an actor, so I never really thought, gosh, I just want to do cartoons, or I just want to do theater. I really just want to work. So I haven't ever, I'm interested in everything, actually. And for me, a lot of it is just what opportunities come my way. And I had the opportunity to audition for an anime in 1995, and that's when I first started working on them. So yeah, I mean, other than like doing interviews in my tape recorder in my room, I think that was my first starring role, me doing all the voices, which no one will ever hear. So yeah, I just kind of went out to do everything. I wasn't that aware of what was going on. In 1995 especially, I had just come off of tour and out of grad school, so I never even used a computer. I was always traveling, and you know, like in '95, I think I had a cell phone for emergencies. So to me, the idea of looking something up online and figuring it out like we do today from our phones is something I never did, so I never looked into it before that. Yes?
Questions?
Oh, there's some down here. You're gonna have to keep running. Your trainer's there. Hi.
Hello, Veronica. What was your most difficult challenge to overcome, and what was your favorite episode to voice?
For Pokemon?
Yes.
I think probably, it's an old story kind of, but we found out we were being replaced close to the end of the 8th season, and it was really hard to know that the end was coming, even though when we worked on the show every year we didn't know it would be renewed until close to the end of the season. But knowing that it was over, doing that last episode especially, was really hard and sad. But luckily we had 8 good years, so that was exciting. That was my biggest challenge, I suppose. What is my favorite episode? Is that what you said? The one I remember the most is the first episode, because we did that over and over and over as we tweaked things, and they were trying to figure out how to make it just right, I guess. But really, my 8 years on Pokemon kind of morphed into one long episode. I don't remember specific episodes, but I remember moments, like setting Butterfree free, or times. I love that moment where Ash spins around with his, I got a soul badge, or whatever, those things, and I love timing it to the spinny thing. Like, I don't know, those things I really loved. So I had a great time on that show.
Were you nervous on the first time you started doing the voice thingy?
Yeah, I get nervous at the firsts of everything. I get nervous before I come here to talk to you for this panel. I was nervous. I'm always afraid that I won't be able to be enough. That's where my fear comes from, that I won't be able to give enough of myself that the job requires. And the same for a panel, or for just sitting at my table meeting people. I get nervous about that I'm not going to be able to be enough. But really, as an actor, I love to jump into something, so I'm also nervous, but in an excited way, to get started on something like that. But I have a lot of acting training, so that helps me not be as nervous, if that makes sense.
Hi. Do you have any funny booth stories or any offset with the other cast?
Most of the jobs I've worked on are, we work very fast on it, and we haven't had the luxury to goof off that much. But I was saying yesterday, probably the worst thing that ever happened to me in the booth is I was working on His and Her Circumstances, and Yukino is just kind of out there, and she has some scenes where the background is spinning around and she's just like screaming out, and it's important to breathe in a moment like that, but I did not. So when you don't breathe, you faint, which I did, and kind of disappeared out of sight. So the booth has a window, and I'm in the window, screaming, and then suddenly I was gone. I was like, I'm okay, I'm fine, and I just kind of came back, with like my headphones off, I don't know. Anyway, so that's probably the worst thing that's happened to me. I definitely get very emotional when there's an emotional scene, so we have to stop, and my nose gets really stuffy, so it obviously sounds like I'm crying. So those are probably the most difficult times for me. Hi.
Hey, so you voiced a 10-year-old boy for a few years of the show, but then come the Hoenn region, you finally got to voice a female character.
Yeah.
Is it closer, or is it, when you record, do you do all of the Ash's lines and then all of May's lines, or do you just switch back and forth each line?
Yeah, with Pokemon, and when you're dubbing something, usually you do all of the one character's lines and then go back to the beginning of the episode and start again. So for that, I would do all of Ash and then all of May and then Ash's mom or whoever else I was playing in the show. On other shows like Ninja Turtles, in Welcome to the Wayne, or which I'm working on now, or I don't know, anything where we're it's called relay, when you do the voices first and then they animate later. We generally do it in order. So if you have a scene with yourself, you are switching back and forth.
Or what's it like having a whole conversation where you're just talking to yourself?
Yeah, so I, at the risk of sounding horrible, it's really great to have scenes with yourself. Because at least with Pokemon, so I could do all of Ash, but then I could hear Ash and as May respond to that. And then when I record an audiobook, I'm doing all the voices, so I get to weave the whole story, and I can play it all against myself, because there's no stopping and starting in that. It's like I'm sitting in your living room reading to you, so it all goes in order. And I like, first of all, I love to play every role, okay? If I could, I would. But especially when you're doing an audiobook, you're the narrator, and then you're the characters in it, and you get to kind of set up the whole pacing and really try to bring the listener along with you. So I think that's, I don't know, it's a big burden to have to do that and hope that you can really tell the story the way the author would like it to be told. But it's a challenge I really love. Hi.
So my question is, yesterday's panel you mentioned that you're a mother and you have your daughter, and she did some scenes with you in Pokemon, but at the same time, with that, and you do bring her along to different panels, how does she feel when she's sitting next to you, you're at these things, and all of a sudden you're known as Ash Ketchum?
Yeah.
And does she ever be like, well, she's not really like that all the time? How is that being a mom and being this famous voice actress at the same time?
Well, I'm still a mother today too. I didn't leave that behind after the panel yesterday, so just to clear that up. No, my daughter and I have kind of had a wonderful, or I should say the ability to have a wonderful relationship, because she's come to work with me, I go to school with her and go on field trips, and we kind of, it's all morphed around in a really amazing way. My life is not kind of famous at all in my real life, but she does get to come to a studio with me for work, whereas other people go to their parents' office or the library or, you know, whatever. So her norm can seem like outrageous to you, but it's just a normal thing. She comes to the theater with me, I help out at her school plays, and you know, like that kind of thing. We really have a very ordinary life, except we get to go to extraordinary places. The fact that we get to travel around the world to conventions has been such an opportunity that we, gosh, never take for granted, and really hope to be able to find some way to share it with all of you, because we've met so many amazing people and gone to really cool places. So I'm pretty much the same all the time. Weird, you know, whatever. So when we're on a panel, I'm still the same person. But people care more about me at something like this than they do in my real life. Do you know? I'm still at home cleaning the dishes, doing the laundry sometimes, and vacuuming and stuff, and telling her to clean her room, and you know, like that kind of stuff. So it doesn't change that much. But I do think it's been a lesson for both of us on how we all need to find a way to stay grounded and realize that none of this stuff is about us. It's not about me. It's about your experience and how we can come to a room here and discuss something that that we have in common. And also for me to travel and hear your stories of watching Pokémon and what school was like when you were growing up, that's the thing for me. It's really not about me so much. And if I can share some of my experience to help your experience be easier in life, then my job is done. Sure.
Hi.
Hi, good to see you. Good to see you.
So a friend of mine is getting into voice acting. Do you have any advice for someone that's just starting out with cartoons?
Yeah, sure. My acting teacher said if there's anything else you can do than be an actor, do that. Because the highs are high and the lows are really low, and you don't work all the time. So the one thing that I think is most important is that you don't set your sights on just cartoons. If you want to be an actor, be an actor. Study as much as you possibly can in all forms. The main thing is you need to learn how to develop characters, how to talk and listen and do your scene work. Because when you're in the booth, you often don't have anyone to do your scene work. And you skim through the script and imagine what the person in front of you is saying, and then how do you respond to that? So it's all in your head, and it's all based in your, like, you know, acting 101. So I would say get as much experience and training as you possibly can as an actor, because you don't know when opportunity will come. The second is you want to make a demo that is about a minute or a minute and a half, showcasing what you do. Some people are great at impressions. Some people have a big range. You want to showcase that. Get someone to help you to do your demo, because it's good to have a director. And then the third thing is network. You can volunteer for work, you meet people at a convention, you work on projects together, and you just keep expanding that circle. Because again, you just never know who can recommend you for something. Most of my jobs have started from recommendations, not from my agent getting me the job. Sure.
Were you shy at first when you first met all the cast?
We never officially met, actually. For Pokémon, for instance, we just started recording it. And I would say in the very beginning, I didn't even know who else was working on the show. I work on Sailor Moon right now, and I've never met the whole cast. I don't even know, actually, everyone who's working on it. And sometimes when I come to work, someone else is leaving, and then I'm like, oh, are you on this show too? Or sometimes at a convention, I see people are signing Sailor Moon stuff, and I go, oh yeah, I'm on that too. But we never are together. So I wasn't shy because we never fully met. When working with 4Kids, when we worked on all those cartoons together, they did have, about the third season or fourth season in, they had a big office where they had a number of studios, and you could see more of the actors there then. and they would have like bagels on Friday or stuff. So everybody would come in early and have a bagel. Exciting times. So I wasn't really nervous because there was no initial meeting of something.
Who's your favorite Pokemon?
My favorite Pokemon is Pikachu. Who's yours?
Lugia.
Good choice, good choice. I spent a lot of time with Pikachu, so it's my favorite. Gotta really like sprint across.
Oh, I know, I all that exercise.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, you better say Pikachu.
Yeah, I know.
Just like me.
Yeah, exactly. I think Pikachu would be pretty mad if I chose something else.
Me too. I'd have 20,000 chalk in me, but
Yeah, that's great.
I always wonder this when I do Christmas parades with Peekabug and everything. I always hear the soundtrack, and I use the Christmas Bash soundtrack.
Oh, do you in your car?
I do. I blast it during the parade route and everything.
Wow.
In fact, that's actually how I learned to do Ash's voice myself.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So I was always wondering, how crazy and fun was that to actually sing as Ash
Super
instead
fun.
of talking?
Yeah, it's great. I love to sing in character, actually. I don't really sing that much in my real voice, but in character it's really fun, especially Ash, because he's kind of doofy and
Pretty much.
just kind of sings. Yeah, that Pokemon Christmas Bash album is really one of the kookiest things we ever did, and so we listen to it every year also. Maybe not as much as you.
No, probably
Because I
not.
don't have a Volkswagen that looks like a Pikachu. So I don't have the chance to play it as much as you do.
Right. Yeah, I was just always wondering that.
Yeah, super fun.
Did you say you do an Ash?
Yes.
Veronica, would you like to hear it?
Yeah, of course.
Pikachu, I choose you.
Pika-Belchu, I choose you!
All right, let's battle.
Let's just be friends.
Allie,
Hi.
how did you come up with your kind of quirks for Ash for other characters, but how would you come up with the actual personality for them?
Well, we had to listen to, when we auditioned for the show at the beginning, we had to listen to the original, like a small clip of the original actors and try to get as close as possible to that. And for that audition, and most of my auditions, you really just go in, they play the clip right there, and then you audition. So there's no preparing for days or thinking about it. It's just really jumping in. So for me, I just kind of took a stab at it. And then once I had the role, I kept in mind my little brother was 10, and also one of my favorite cartoons is Speed Racer, and Spritle is played by a woman, Corinne Orr. Spritle, and also the Rudolph, you know, in those stop action, she thinks I'm cute, you know, that kind of, I really thought that's what I kept in my mind as Ash. But really, when you look at him, he's just out there, and I just kind of tried to be that, which isn't that far from kind of who I am in some ways. I mean, there's a little bit of everyone in all of us, and the same for all of my characters. Although I play a really mean character on Welcome to the Wayne now, I'm not that mean in real life. But it is really nice to pretend to be. She thinks she's doing good, I think. I really think has a higher purpose, but she's pretty mean.
I guess that's more fun.
Yeah, well, sometimes they do. But I will tell you, it's bad guys might have more fun, but it is more rewarding in the long run to be a good guy. So I have found that to be true. So I'll stick up for that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hey.
Hi.
People who speak different languages usually think in different languages. I know you do many different characters.
Yeah.
Do you ever think in different characters like Ash and then his mom's voice, do a back and forth?
That's a really good
anything
idea.
like that? And would you mind doing a back and forth between Ash and his
You
mom?
my inner monologue? You know what, I've never actually thought in a different, I used to speak French more than I do now, and I could think in French, but I've never thought in Ash, actually, so that's really interesting.
Gosh, I've never really thought about this very much. Mom, when I'm not home, do you ever think like me?
Oh, Ash. No. Actually, I think a little bit more like Mr. Mime.
What?
Yeah. I don't think about anything at all.
I think Mr. Mime probably thinks about it.
So, random question. Which one of the Team Rocket trio is your favorite, and which one is the one you don't like the most?
So someone asked me that the other day, and I never have thought about that before. So I would say Meowth is my favorite, because you've got to have Jesse and James together. They're like their own yin and yang, and if you chose one, the other one would come at you, probably. So Meowth is the grounding for them, so I'd have to go with that. I don't have either of them that I don't like. I played Hun, and that character was really confusing because I think in the beginning they didn't know if it was a man or a woman, and they weren't sure they wanted to make a decision. So that's kind of the most confusing one for me of all.
Has there ever been a time where you wanted to do something else besides voice acting?
No. And when I got out of grad school, well, actually, as an actor, I think of myself as an actor, but a lot of my career now is voice related. But when I finished grad school, I thought, gosh, I wonder if I should have thought about doing something else. But now it's too late because I've really invested in this. But I think if I were to choose something else, I might go more towards archaeology or being a naturopath. So those are two different things which require a lot more study. But I do think overall, as an actor, I kind of dive into the person and try to dig out what there is underneath and all of who they are. And that's the same as being an archaeologist. You dig down and try to figure out what could have come before. And it's not so far from what I do. And then I also think we're all so far from the ground now and nature that I think going back into homeopathy or being a naturopath, something like that, where we're learning from our elders and healing each other. So I would kind of go towards that. So I try to bring that into being an actor now. And then just pray I keep getting work.
I was wondering if you could sing the Pokemon theme song in Ash's voice.
I wish I could, but you've heard it more than I have. I watched it on Saturday mornings as well, and some days before school. But I don't really know the Pokemon theme song, and I've never actually sung it. So I think it would be a disappointment to you if I tried.
And anyway, on my journey, I don't even know what song you're talking about.
Could you imagine if they're out there, Ash and Misty and Brock, and they have their boombox with the very mask like going along? I actually don't know the words to it, but we can all sing it together if you want at the end. That's the best thing. But otherwise, I don't really know it.
So I have a question
Yes.
for you, Veronica.
Yes.
Being there at the beginning, at what point did you realize that Pokemon was a sensation? It was a hit. Like, when did you have that moment that this is something special?
We didn't even know if people were watching the show at all until maybe Christmas of 1998. It went on the air September. I lived in New York City, which is where we worked on the show, and kids on the public bus were playing Pokemon cards. So then I thought, hey, that's pretty cool. And there was a little store down the street from where we recorded that sold things from Japan, and there were some Pokemon things in there. So I bought a lot of like Pokemon rings, and I bought this stuff. You know what I mean, right? Stuff. I should wear those actually. But I think it was like then, and when the first movie came out, and there were actually things written up in the New York Times about it, and that's when I knew it was big, that people were actually watching the show and liking it.
So yesterday's panel, you were mentioning that you did play Pokemon Go, but you were like level 8. I just wanted to know what team you were.
I am Valor. I play it, but I forget. Like, I could be playing it here, I suppose. There's a lot of water here. Is that right? But I forget to take out my phone. I just forget to do it. So I note to self. Now that my daughter doesn't travel with me as much, I suppose I could be playing more Pokemon Go. I'll get on it. Valor seemed the most Ash-like, so I chose Valor. Plus it was red.
Yeah.
You know,
Heard it here first.
Yeah. That's right.
This is kind of a weird question, but do you think there's anything going on with Delia and Professor Oak?
I would like that to be more true than Delia and Mr. Mime. So I'm just saying. But who doesn't want someone who is always around the house cooking and cleaning and not speaking? I'm not sure. So I don't think she would date him because that's just not going to work out. But you know, there's an interesting thing I don't know about. Professor Oak is such a great friend. Gary would still be around, so I'm not sure how that would work out, and she may draw the line because of that. But Ash is never home, so it is a little weird that she's always just over there. Hey, Mom, what are you doing here? I don't know. So in a way, it wouldn't be the worst thing, right? I mean, is everyone okay with that? She needs companionship. And he's smart, technologically savvy before any of us were, because they had those phones that you could call picture phones. Remember that in 1998? Yes.
Hi.
Ring, ring. Yeah.
You got to, of course you spent the most time as Ash, but you also got to do a lot of smaller roles. Did you have a favorite, like, minor role that you got to do that stood out to you?
Yeah, I was a lot of Gary's cheerleaders, actually, which that was always fun to, because you still have to lay it down in, you know, different tracks of them. So I got to be this one and then this one and then this one, and that's always a fun. I like that actually. It's probably the most underrated character I've played. But yeah, like that.
I was wondering, what was your favorite gym battle as Ash?
Tell me what some of the gym battles were. Because it's hard for me to, I remember battling, but not specifics. Because also, when I would do my lines, I wasn't always looking at the person that I was battling against. So, you know, when you think about it, if in the script, we'd go my line to my line to my line. So if I'm going, Pikachu, go! And then Pikachu's fighting and all that stuff is happening, and then I go, is my next line. And then he's off on the sidelines talking to Misty and Brock to figure out something, and I'm not seeing the other person that much. So if you remind me of the character, I can probably remember something about it. But off the top of my head, when I left that day after recording it, I probably couldn't have told you that much about it then either. Not that I'm senile at this point, or don't care, but it just kind of goes, you know what I mean? Because I don't see the whole episode. And then when I did watch it, I'm also making breakfast for my kid or goofing around, you know, like, so I don't know that I've ever watched an episode really sitting in front of the TV with my bowl of cereal and my Pokemon cards out and just like watching it. I don't know if I ever have. But now with Netflix, I could. You know what I mean? So who's your favorite gym leader?
Oh, mine was Lieutenant Surge.
I remember Surge. Yeah, that was a good one. Plus he's so big and Ash is so little. He should have won. Did he? He won everything. In my mind, Ash won everything. And only from coming to conventions did I find out he lost most of the time. But in my mind, it's just battle well done, you know? So I just don't remember the specifics like that. And plus, I just remember joy. Just like, not Nurse Joy. I mean, just joyful things. So I kind of tend to take the negative. I just block it out, kind of. Yeah, I'll go with Surge. That was a good one.
Actually, I think they, sorry.
Yeah? You can add it in. Yeah.
No, sorry, never mind.
When it came to movies versus the episodes, was there much difference for you in terms of scale, or was it just kind of more lines?
Yeah, in the beginning, we actually got to go, and for the first movie, we recorded it in an actual movie house, whatever, recording studio, where they have the gigantic screen, where they do a lot of the looping. So when you come back in and you're fixing lines for a movie, you actually you loop it in, you fill in your own lid flap. So we worked on Pokemon in that, which was a lot different from the tiny booth with the little screen that we were looking at before. But then I think the second movie we did also, and then as time went on, we just did it where we recorded the series. So it was still epic in the sense that the story was bigger, but the style of recording was the same as the episodes. But the first movie was pretty amazing, and it was an incredible experience to go in. Like, you feel like a real actor, you know? And seriously, the place was, there's nothing like being in a giant booth, and it's so quiet. Because I live in New York City, I live in Los Angeles, it's loud all the time. And to be in there, and it's padded walls, which sounds like I'm in the insane asylum, but there's just a quiet, and it's air conditioned to a perfect degree, and it's just lovely. And then there's the screen that you're working on, the giant mouth that it's easy to fit the flap. It was really, really incredible.
So in the movie, I know a lot of us probably cried, but in the movie, when
Yes.
you turned into stone, was that scene hard for you to record? Did you cry?
Yes.
How did you feel while recording that scene?
Yeah, well, also the big thing is that it was definitely very emotional, but more so when I saw it, because again, when Ash was turned to stone, he didn't have any lines, so I skipped over that part. So we didn't ever watch it through. So even for that kind of thing, when we're recording it, a movie, I only saw my parts, my lines, I should say. Saying my parts sounds a little. So even the full impact of that, I didn't realize until I saw it in the theater. And the first time I saw it was in Los Angeles at the premiere, and which was great, because what you guys probably don't remember is that, so I remember going into the theater for the premiere, and it looked like the whole place was empty, but everybody was so small that their heads were below the seats. And so now, I just saw the movie recently when they had a showing in the movie theater, and everyone's tall, because everyone's grown up and yelling the lines out at the movie, and it was just a cool experience, but so completely different from the beginning, because most of us are grown up now, and taller, you know, not me, but mostly everyone. But yeah, those kind of things are always really emotional for me, and you know, all of that with Pikachu or Butterfree or Snow Runt or you name it, those things are very emotional. When Misty and Brock and Ash parted, just incredibly sad. And also none of us knew what was coming next. And none of us knew before we got there that day that was happening. So it's incredibly sad. So, and as an actor, I like to be able to be so in the moment that I am that character. So yeah, in audiobooks it's hard for me because I have to stop sometimes, because it's so emotional that I'm crying, and then I have to narrate as if I'm removed, and I have to take a break then and kind of clear out.
Mine's is not a question,
okay.
More so a request.
Okay.
Can I have you ask my son Anthony to battle you in Ash voice?
Hey Anthony, are you a Pokemon trainer? Let's battle! Please. What do you say, Anthony? Don't leave me hanging, man. Okay.
Very subdued nod.
Yeah, that's okay, because trainers are cool. You know, you gotta be low-key about it, right? If you're too enthusiastic, you shouldn't be battling, I think. Says Ash. Says Ash's mom. Yes?
Hey, so I know the show Pokemon is originally in Japanese, so it's already drawn out, and so when you're recording it, I assume you're watching it as well, trying to match. Are there lines you have to say quicker, or take more time to say because of the mouth movements or something along those lines?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question, because it's kind of a mystery what happens. So really, exactly how it happens is there's a little monitor usually up on the wall. In some studios it's a little bit bigger. You walk in, you get your script. It used to be on paper, now it's on an iPad. And it's just the whole script laid out for you. So you kind of go through, you find your line, you get 3 beeps in your headphones, And on where the fourth beat would be is when you start speaking. And it is lined up to your character starting to speak. And so basically what you're doing is you are looking at the line and looking at the mouth and speaking into the mic, which is kind of here, right in the middle and in the way of everything. So you kind of give it your best shot and see kind of where it lines up. Sometimes the flap is kind of here and you have to figure it out. And so then you have to make all those weird stops flow in a way that doesn't sound like I just did, where I was making a decision in the middle of a sentence. So that kind of thing, you have to figure it out. And what the most important player there is the person who has adapted the script for the flap. Those people are probably like the heroes of every episode you've ever loved, because you have someone who translates it from whichever language it originally is in, and then you have the person who adapts it to that. When we were working on Cubics, that originated in Korea. And I don't speak Korean, but what I learned from working on this is there is a sound at the end of sentences that's an open mouth sound. So many of the lip flaps ended open. So things did have to shift a bit so that we could be open more. I don't know, it's really a fascinating thing, because you really are trying to fill what's there for you. When you're doing something prelay, you have a little more leeway, actually, to just act the scene how you want to do it. Sometimes I can read the script and Ash is kind of in one way, I think he's kind of more energetic, and then I see the picture and he's like this, and his mouth is really small, so you have to adapt in that second. You don't really have time to prep. Fascinating. It is pretty neat. It's like take your daughter to work day. I should take you all to work, and then you can see that. It is a really neat and weird thing.
Ash has been through several different Pokemon leagues. Don't you think you should have won by now?
Hey man, it's not just about winning, is it? Obviously.
I wish that he had one more, but realistically speaking, we all set out every day to win, and winning is not so black and white, as they say in Pokemon. Get it? Black and white? I didn't either, I wasn't in that. Okay, so, but the thing is that it's really about how you play the game. And I do think that Ash is such a good sport, and we've learned a lot about friendship and helping others, that we should be able to say, it doesn't matter that he didn't win, he played well, but I really wish he had won more. I mean, I like to win, okay? But yeah, I think we learn more from our losses, and I think we've all learned a lot from all of Ash's losses. Bye.
Hello again.
Hi.
Was there ever a character, whether in the original series or in the entirety of the Pokemon universe, that you wanted to voice act that you never got to?
Pretty much everything that I've ever auditioned for and not gotten, I wanted.
Is every character?
Yeah, I mean, I audition for so many things every day that I don't get cast in. And a lot of that stuff, you just have to kind of find a way to invest yourself so fully for the audition, and then just let it go. There's a lot of things that I haven't gotten that if I thought about that, I don't think I could leave my room in the morning, I'm really happy with the characters I got a chance to play. So I never have thought about, I wish I was this one or whatever. One time there was one character that we recorded the whole episode with me doing the kid as an Irish kid, and then they changed it. I think it might have been, could it have been, I don't remember exactly right now, but anyway, and then they changed it and had someone else do it. So I wish he had been there. What it's a bit of I don't know, he was over there talking to Ash and doing stuff. I don't remember his voice exactly, but anyway, the point is, even that kind of stuff, you can do a whole episode and then you find out that you're not in it anymore. So that kind of stuff happens all the time. Yeah. These are the weirdest, longest answers. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm just going on and on today. I'll make yours short. Yes.
How do you feel about people saying that Ash is the worst trainer ever?
Who said that?
A lot of people on the internet.
Oh, internet. Look, just don't check the internet. Live like I do. Just don't go on there very much. It's a lot better to not read a lot of negative things, because honestly, if we're having a conversation, we can have a discussion about that, and I'm fine with it. But online, when people, and this is a bigger issue, not about Ash. I don't care if people say that about him. But you know, like I think we do have freedom of speech, and that's an important thing. But you cannot take respect out of that and kindness. And we all are allowed to not agree with someone else's opinion, but I still think you have to be able to talk about it in a nice, respectful way. I think, but to your specific issue, you know, he's a 10-year-old kid out there trying to do his best. So I think he wishes he won more too, and I think he's always trying to be better, but if you can't really judge someone based on what you would do to be your best and what their best is. So get me that person on the internet now. Let's have this discussion. That person, I'm totally joking with you. But you know what I mean? It's hard to say. We all wish he'd done things differently, for sure. I wish I had done some things differently in my real life. But there's no going back on it. You just try to be better. So may we all be that way.
That's deep.
Yeah, it's so deep, man. I'm digging. I'm out in the garden with Ash's mom. Yes.
Okay, another question.
Yes.
So which big movie, other than the one where he turns to stone, is your favorite to voice act in?
I loved the Lucario one. That's the 8th one, right? I loved when he's in the costume and he had to. I loved when Ash got to play different characters. Like when Ash was Ashley in the perfume store. I like being a girl playing a boy playing a girl. All those layers. I loved when they are in their costumes and they get to whatever, and then he got to play a bit. Because that's what we all do, regardless of our age, is play. And that was my favorite one because of that.
Hello. Sorry I walked in a little late, so...
That's okay, at least you're back.
Yeah.
Brock's back.
If you, when you're doing audiobooks, do you read the whole book first?
Yes.
And then, so that way you know where it's all going?
Yeah, I always prep an audiobook by reading the whole thing. And I read books, but I narrate off of an iPad. So I go through the whole book, and I tell you that because I'm going to be doing this, and you'll wonder what I'm talking about. So I always go through and I note, I have a list of all the characters and kind of characteristics or what other people have said about them, so I form a bigger picture of them. And then in the script, I mark it all out, and then I kind of know where it's going. But I always read the book first, and then I get in the studio, and it takes, let's say for a book like the high school, what are the high school, Storybook High School, I can't remember the name of those. These books take one day. They're about a 4 or 5 hour narrated book. It takes me 1 day to record it. I can't remember, Ever After High. Those books take about a day to record. Other books can take 2 or 3 days to record, depending on how long it is. I just did one about the first women in the Olympics, and that took 2.5 days. So you're in there from, let's say, 9 to 4, 10 to 5, something, just kind of going all day. I go home, rest, come back, and just bang it out like that. But I always prep it for sure. There's nothing worse than people who haven't prepped it, and then you're going all along, and then on page 230, you find out the main character has a German accent. You know, so that's a problem. And it happens. I don't know if any of you are authors, please put your descriptions of the characters in right away when they appear, because we don't need to know later on, he said in his alluring German accent. Yes, all right.
So it was going to be piggybacking off of the internet question. But you know how like a lot of people have conspiracy theories of Ash, like he's in a coma the entire time. What is your view on that?
Well, first of all, I think it's amazing that Pokémon itself has just spun so many bits of creativity, whether it's a conspiracy theory or people who are drawing their own pictures and writing stories based on those characters and ones that they made up. And it's just, it really has been a creative font, I think, and just inspired so many things. As far as specific conspiracy theories, I love the idea that he's in a coma, and I'm just hoping that when he wakes up, it's me going, oh wow, I just had the weirdest dream, you know? Just like in the Bob Newhart show, you know, a long time ago, he woke up with his first Newhart wife, Suzanne Plachette, in the second series. Brilliant. Anyway, that's what I would love. But it's an interesting thing to think about. What if all of your life was this weird dream, and then suddenly you woke up again at 10, and then we're like, I have the chance to do it all over again? Like, would you? Could you? That's what blows my mind. Because we all have made so many mistakes that have made us, and had great things happen too, that have made us who we are. So if suddenly at, I don't know when he would wake up, but let's say even at 30, you woke up and went like, oh, now I go back to 10? How do you go through 6th grade again? You know, like, I don't know. So that's the thing that really, that's what gets me thinking about it. I don't know. Good luck to all of us. We're in the parallel dimension, which is right next to us. Maybe we can all pop over there and do something, I don't know. I'm looking at my watch. We still have time. Yeah. We have time.
Why
Hi
not?
guys, are you here for my panel? Please come in, we have 5 minutes.
Have a seat.
Welcome. It's a Q&A.
Yes, it is. Come on in. Veronica, I wanted to ask, being in this business for as long as you have, as this experience that you have, and going to conventions and hearing back from the fans on the phenomenon that is Pokemon, have you considered writing a book? Maybe on the effects Pokemon has had on your fans, and then maybe doing your own audio recording of it.
I would record my own book, definitely. But I don't know what I would write it on. There's so much that I have learned, actually, from working on the show, but even more so traveling afterward. I've learned so much more about humans, about humanity and kindness and generosity that I never really knew existed. Now I'll cry for you, so that won't be in my book. But I don't know how to put that together. I don't know if people would read it. I don't know. Sometimes I think it would make a pamphlet, not a book. You know? I'm just not sure. But I kind of have thought about it. But I will say this. We are stronger together. We all need a team. And I have a gazillion ideas every single day. But on my own, none of them go anywhere. So it's kind of like, I think for all of you, there's so much creativity. This is about finding your team. Ash was nothing without Misty and Brock, you know? I mean, and yada, yada, yada down the line. But without those three, none of them could have achieved anything. And we do need a team. And so I think I'm still looking for my team to put together how do I create something like that could make the positive difference that I would hope it would have, you know? So I'll consider it. Do you think you would read something that I would write? Yes. Okay, then I'll do it. Okay, then I'll do it.
I also think a lot of parents of who maybe weren't into Pokemon would love a book like that when their child's getting into this. Are there any other parents, because I know you talk about your daughter so much,
I'm a parent.
and you sound like a lovely parent, that maybe it could be geared towards the parents, a future Pokemon
you know what
players.
I really want to do is I really want to have my own like Mr. Rogers type show. That's what I would like.
I would watch that.
Yeah, I would like to be the next Mr. Rogers and have something, because I think, like, look at this community that we have here, and that if we could create something like that that's on TV, that would be a dream job for me. And being a Goodwill ambassador around the world. That would take me outside of TV.
What was the saddest moment of Pokemon for you?
I think when we found out we were being replaced, definitely. That was the saddest moment for me. Everything else was pretty great. My life as an actor on that show was kind of really weird whirlwind, because when I was working on Pokemon, I was still working on a million other things. I've never been able to have only one job. I've always had to constantly be looking and looking and looking. Even now, I record jobs from my hotel room. I do auditions from here. I'm prepping a book to do. I'm always working all the time because I have no financial stability from any of my jobs. So, so that was probably one of the saddest things. And then, gosh, I think that episode with Butterfree is probably the most solid sad of all, where we really all have to learn what it is to kind of let go. And in my life, that's pretty much one of the most difficult things. And so that is a starting point for understanding how to let go. And then I've had to learn more and more in my real life.
Okay, we have time for one more quick question.
Or maybe if I answer quickly, I can get yours in too. Yes.
I was actually going to ask before, like, why did you guys get discontinued, and why did they bring a new set of voice actors? Because in my opinion, like, they're not nearly as good as the original of you guys.
Well, it's so hard to fill in when other people have done something for 8 years anyway. And we had amazing directors and writers when we were working on the show, so I think they have a difficult job anyway. But Pokémon USA is a company that was formed. Pokémon in Japan hired 4 kids to produce the show in the US, and Pokémon USA formed during that time. And after when the end of the 8th season was coming up, they decided they wouldn't renew the contract, but they would produce the show on their own. And so they just said, we've already found replacements, we don't need any of you. So they kind of cut us all off. Everyone who worked on the show, the actors, the writers, directors. So it was just their decision, and it remains their decision to not use us. So otherwise, I have no idea. I mean, that's really all we found out, and that was the end. So I would have chosen to stay. But yeah. But anyway, you have one last question. Yes?
If they ever asked you to come back, you're very homeless. Would you ever...
I would love to play Ash again. I love the show. I love the energy behind it. I mean, honestly, it's a very different show now. So would I play Ash again? Yes, I always would. But nothing that's not to say it is no offense to anyone who works on the show or anything, but I loved being that character. So I, of course, would say yes. This is it. You guys, I just want to say thank you so much. This is incredible that you, as Florida, as residents of Tampa, have been through so much. And I thank you for coming here to spend time with me. I feel so blessed and honored that I was able to come to your city and be part of this as we all kind of recover from these crazy things going on. The weather is... the hurricane, all these things are out of our control, and yet we can come together and sit for a minute and just chat. And thank you for spending the time with me. It means so much. I will say, MegaCon Tampa, I choose you! And Tampa residents, I choose you more. Anyway, thank you guys so much.